Because I want to show you what happens when you reduce your margin. I bet you've been in a position where you needed a job desperately and then you were fearful that your margin was too high, so you thought, I'm just going to drop it down a bit. Okay, so I'll get the job. You all done that before? Yes? Just admit it to yourself, if anything, right? So let's look at what happens when you drop your margin, how it impacts the volume of work. All right, discounting your prices. So we're going to go with 20% because most of the builders that I start working with are around 20%. Normally 20% markup, which is a 16 margin. But let's say you're doing 25 markup, you've got a 20 margin. All right, because these numbers and how much you discount the price by impacts the volume of work that you need to make up. It changes based on your margin. So we're just going to play at 20%. You see it goes 25, 30, 35, 40. Let's just say your margin's 20, okay? If you discount by 2%, so you go from 20 to 18%, you will need to increase the amount of work that you do by 11% just to stay in the same place, to make the same amount of money. If you drop your margin by 4%, you need to increase the volume of work by 25% just to stay in the same place and pay your bills. If you go down to 10%, you need to increase the volume of work by 100%. You need to double the volume of work you do. If you're doing $2 million, you need to do $4 million worth just to cover the bills and to stay in exactly the same place. But that's the reality. And the beautiful thing about numbers, what I love about numbers is the numbers don't lie. It's mathematics, right? In this world where there's not a lot of black and white anymore, even genders aren't black and white, right? The numbers don't lie. All right, so if the numbers stack up 25, 10, 15, if you can hold this is why it's so important to hold your margin, guys. Let's look at the impact of increasing your pricing, which is what happens with pretty much every single builder I start working with. I'm like, hey, you got to get your margins up. And they'll go to where? And I'm like, minimum 25. And I've had guys sweating bullets, especially the older guys in their 50s. And I'm like, I'm either working with or have worked with every one of your competitors in your area. Their margins are double yours. If you put your margins up, okay, starting off a base of 20. So say you're at 20 now, and you go up to, you put 10% on, let's go straight there. You would have to lose 33% of the volume of work. More than 33%, 1/3 of your turnover before you start losing money. All right, so we've had guys look at this and go, wow, so I could increase my pricing by 10% and then get up to a 30 margin from 20 and then do 1/3 less of the work. So I need to do 2/3 of the work they were doing and make the same amount of money. So that becomes a lifestyle change right there. If you're happy with the amount of money you're making now, but your margin is too low, your gross margin is too low, you can increase your margin and significantly reduce the amount of work you do. Literally build 2 or 3 houses a year less and make the same money. Right? Or you can keep the volume at the same place and make money, or you can double dip and increase your volume, so grow the business, which is what most people do, and increase the margin, and then the net, that's when you get that parabolic up curve with your net profit. Remember I mentioned earlier, it's not linear, it's parabolic. It's because of this.